Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be answering some of the questions that I get asked a lot as a technician. With me today is my wife Tammy, who will be assisting me by keeping these questions in order. So, without further ado, what is our first question?
We have a lot of questions today. The one we get the most is, how did you get started as an automotive mechanic?
So, I got started essentially with on-the-job training. I got out of high school, graduated high school, started to work in the tire shop. Needed a job. I'd been around automotive, working with my father in our home garage, that sort of thing, most of my life. My older brother was a technician, and so, like I said, I went to work in a Goodyear tire store and learned, obviously, mounting and balancing of tires, but started learning basic mechanics such as tune-ups, alignments, brakes, and that sort of thing.
I love it. What advice would you give to someone who is possibly interested in becoming a mechanic?
Advice is try and get immersed into the business as quickly as possible. Make sure this is something you want to do. It is an investment. It's an investment in time as well as tools and money for education and many other things. Try and find a mentor that will help guide you.
Agreed. What training, certifications, or education did you complete to enter the field?
So when I started, I really didn't have any because I started as a just on the job training. I think that in today's day and age, that some formal training is definitely in order to get started, to get a good feel for what the business is like. This can include even high school shop programs, something that gives us an idea of where we would like to start.
I like it. How long have you been working as a mechanic, and what type of shops have you worked in?
So I've been in this business as a mechanic for over 40 years. As I stated, I started in a tire store for about 4 years. I worked there. I got a good basic foundation of working. From that point, I went to work in dealerships for virtually the entire rest of my career, specifically GM and Chrysler dealerships.
Okay. What types of vehicles do you specialize in, or lines, or brands, if any?
So I specialize in General Motors and Chrysler products. However, what I would say with that is there's a lot of diagnosis and repair that transcends all the lines, all the manufacturers. A lot of things that you're going to do in this business is basic repairs, basic diagnosis. Some of the more technical stuff then will get involved more brand specific.
Good to know. Difference between a trade school and a dealership sponsored trade school?
So the difference
You can
would
explain.
be a basic trade school for somebody that wants to get into this business. Um, you would pick a trade school. There's a multitude of trade schools out there. Typically, they're about a 2 year program. You would go to school, try and find a job when you were done with trade school, or possibly while you're going to school, um, and work at that. The difference is a dealership sponsored trade school or um, program is many of the dealerships or many of the, let me restate that, many of the manufacturers have specific programs related directly to their brand. So, for example, Toyota has what's called T10, Honda has what's called PACT, Ford has Asset. The ones I'm most familiar would be with General Motors, which is ASEP, Automotive Student Education Program, or CAP with Chrysler products or Mopar products, which is Career Automotive Program. These programs are a combination of on the job as well as technical learning at the trade school. So the example would be the student would go to trade school for approximately 2 months. They would then go to work in a dealership, and these programs do have to be dealership sponsored. They would then go to work in the dealership for approximately the next 2 months and hopefully learn the material that they have studied at school and then be able to implement that while they're working with it at the dealership. And typically in the dealership, they would be working with a mentor or a senior technician who would assist with that training.
Can you tell me about ASE certification? How long does it take to get it? How does it work? And how many ASE certifications do you have?
So I have 7 ASE certifications. I have been certified, ASE certified for over 25 years. I don't remember, to be honest, exactly how long past that point. ASE certifications, first, they require at least 2 years hands on experience. With the trade schools help assist in passing ASE certifications. They provide that training and also practice for these ASE certifications. If you go to your trade school, then you only need 1 more year of hands-on experience to be able to complete your ASE certifications.
How much learning happens on the job versus how much in the classroom? I know that's a hard one, but, like, is it 50-50? Is it,
It's
vary?
it's definitely a combination. The basics that you're going to learn with any training, whether is it from a trade school or as you continue education, and in this business, we always need to be continuing our education. So typically, happens with the continued education is you would go to a school, whether it is a dealership sponsored school or through the manufacturer training. If you're working in a dealership, a lot of times is related to what is coming out, what's going to be coming out, what type of technology are we going to be seeing in the next year on new vehicles. In the dealership, you then, when the vehicles come in, you've had this, and you do a lot of learning by just working on the vehicle, but you have the basics.
Yeah. Well, that goes along with the next question we got is, how do you stay current with the new automotive technology? Now, when you go to school, you're gonna be learning, obviously, the latest and greatest, but as you keep going, how do you stay current?
Good question. So a lot of the current training is still going to be as you're working on the vehicles. However, there are classes, once again, working in a dealership, as new products come out, as new technology comes out. This is the advantage of working in a dealership. You are sent to school or you will be training on uh, online. A lot of training is online anymore. Um, if you are working in an independent shop, I believe there are still a lot of classes available in the independent world. I know, for example, high voltage and hybrid vehicles. There are definite training classes through various trade schools and or sometimes parts manufacturers. Complete training and education.
A lot of learning. Along that line, what types of training programs or trade schools do you recommend? Are there any you're familiar with that you know of?
So, without getting into brand specific trade schools, I would look deeply into the schools that the manufacturers recommend or certify to be able to do their training. And you don't always have to go through that program to go to that trade school. There's many trade schools that would do both the dealership sponsored training programs as well as independent. But at least looking at those trade schools, they have already filtered out the schools that they don't want, and they are providing the schools that they do want, and they feel provide the adequate training that is needed.
That's really good to know. Just to move on out of the schooling part of it. And another question we got was, what mistakes do you see new mechanics commonly make? I know that you worked with a lot of new mechanics coming out of school when you were a shop foreman, and you kind of showed them the ropes and how to work in the dealerships. So, what types of mistakes do you see the new mechanics make?
So, new mechanics, the most common mistakes are getting in a hurry and not diagnosing properly.
Yeah,
We call it shooting the parts cannon in the
yeah,
business, and you know the parts cannon is not our friend. It often leads to incorrect diagnosis, more money spent by a
money.
customer that is not needed because we didn't. Diagnosis is extremely important in this business, and it's getting more technical and harder
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. It's a good big skill. This is probably really a big topic and you can narrow it down, but how has the automotive technology changed since you started in your career?
Great question. I have seen a massive change in my career. And in many ways, that has made my career easier. When I started working on this, we were working on carburetors. We were working on points type ignition systems, as well as high voltage, high energy systems, not high voltage, but still very basic. We set timing, did tune ups, that sort of thing. We've evolved now to the point that we have these high voltage vehicles. They You're dealing with 400 volts. Something wasn't unheard of when I started in this business. The ADAS safety systems that we have on vehicles, the number of radars we have on a vehicle now that tell us there's a vehicle in front of us, automatic braking, um, lane assist, and obviously at this point we're now seeing self-driving cars, and this kind of technology is going to continue, and it makes our job harder, but it also makes us way more valuable
Mm,
if we learn these systems. And so, yes, massive changes. And I guarantee the next generation of technicians is going to continue to see these things and it's going to continue to move.
yeah. How important is computer diagnostics compared to the hands-on mechanical skills today?
So I think that's a good question. I think it's always going to be a combination. Um, we need to be able to properly diagnose, but sometimes to say test circuits, we have to do this disassembly of components in order to do proper testing. It is always going to be a combination. And I don't know that I would say it's a 50-50 split as such. Sometimes it just depends on the job we're doing. What is the job? Does it require more diagnosis, or are we doing what I would call a nuts and bolts job, which is simply doing a fluid exchange or something like that?
Yeah. Part of your job in the shop, especially as a shop foreman, was customer interaction. You were kind of always the guy that went and broke the bad news to the customers. So, how do you explain complex car problems to customers who aren't familiar with vehicles at all?
Keep it simple. And I mean, that's the number one thing I would say. Keep it simple. Don't get too technical. But if a customer has questions, answer them. Start off simple. You have a check engine light. Here's the code you have. Here's what it's related to. We need to diagnose this, or here's what we recommend for a repair. If they have more questions, answer them. If they want to get super technical, and I've had customers that do, get technical with them. That's fine. Judge your customer by the questions they ask.
They can learn from you.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception customers have about mechanics?
So to be very blunt, it's we're not real intelligent. Was probably the biggest misconception that we have. This comes from the old days of working on cars. Um, this is not the case anymore. In this business, I believe most of the technicians and mechanics that I work with are very intelligent, especially the ones who are at the upper end. You have to be. You have to be able to have good thought processes and diagnostic skills.
How did you handle, speaking of customers, how did you handle it when they didn't agree with the diagnosis or especially the repair costs, which are astronomical?
So those are case by case basis. Yes, they are astronomical. Often, I guess two questions. It's kind of two questions. So if they don't agree with the diagnosis, um, yes, that's up to them.
Yeah,
If my feeling was always, why did you bring it to me for diagnosis just to not agree with it?
yeah.
They're always welcome to go somewhere else. Same with the cost. I mean, the answer to both of those is, I would always tell someone, you're welcome to go to second opinion. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I believe in my personal abilities and the information I am giving you, but just like a doctor, go get a second diagnosis.
What would you give to someone considering a career as an automotive mechanic? That's pretty general, but
Advice would be education, absolute education. good work ethic, but those go with any job, you know. And so it's not just the automotive industry; it's both of those. Find a, as I've said, this is a never-ending learning process. So try to find a employer who is going to assist with that never-ending education and isn't just stuck in one level of it. Um, we need to keep learning. Always have to keep learning. Learning is just imperative and important in this industry because of the never-ending changing.
So we are on the verge of massive technology getting ready to just rock every industry there is. Where do you see the automotive repair industry heading in the next 10 years, especially with the oncome of AI?
I think we are going to see more of an evolution into self-driving, definitely more into driver assist systems, which we have now. They haven't been perfected, so therefore they are tremendously evolving.
I think.
I think we're going to see a continuation of current technology, though. So, I get asked sometimes, what about electronic vehicles versus standard, we call it an ICE engine, internal combustion engines? Are those going to go? They have a purpose. They will continue to have a purpose, as does the electronic vehicles, hybrid vehicles. They will continue to evolve too as battery storage technology changes. I think we're going to see big evolutions in the um, electronic vehicle industry.
You told me that we're going to be doing a video soon on the electric and hybrid vehicles coming up soon. But what impact have they had on your industry, your work, as of now?
As of now, it does require specialized training. Um, for example, I still currently assist technicians in diagnosing vehicles. One of those things that I require from technicians, if I assist on a hybrid high voltage vehicle, they have to be certified in this. The reason is it's dangerous. You're dealing with 400 volts. Um, I was required to take the training, and we require it also. It is not systems that you want to just be jumping into, not knowing how to isolate, not knowing how to safely work on, because it's you know more dangerous than anything we've had up to this point.
Um, this one's more related to like day to day in the life of. How do you approach troubleshooting a problem when the cause isn't obvious?
When the cause isn't obvious, this is why we have a lot of service manuals and a lot of diagnostic trouble trees. If we don't see anything obvious, the best thing you can do is follow the step by step diagnostics. As you become more proficient and um, you see the same problems a lot, there's going to be things that we can streamline with that. However, properly diagnosing often leads to parts replacement that isn't needed, as we somewhat talked about before, and therefore an unhappy customer. Or if you're working on your own vehicle, now you've just spent money on something that you didn't need to because you didn't diagnose your own vehicle properly. So I always think about when I'm diagnosing a customer's vehicle versus my own. If this was my vehicle, what would I do? Do the same for your customer. You don't want to spend money unnecessarily on your own vehicle. Don't do it for your customer either. Do the proper diagnosis.
And this is our last question, actually. What skills do you think are most important for being a successful mechanic?
Organization, um, good work ethic, obviously. That goes with any job, but you got to have a good work ethic. You got to come to work ready to go. You have to apply your current knowledge and always be ready to acquire new knowledge. Don't I've seen too many technicians, and it seems like at about the 10 to 15-year mark in the business, they start thinking they know it all. And you're not going to tell them anything. Huge problem with that as far as don't ever think that. The longer I'm in this business, the less I seem to know. Because when you think you've seen stuff, trust me, there's going to be something that drops into your shop that is going to baffle everybody.
Mhm.
And so you got to be ready to take on those challenges, though, and have the attitude to take them on and say, you know what, I'm the guy that's going to fix this.
Yeah.
And when you have that attitude, it helps yourself a lot as well as your employer.
Yeah. One more question we did get, and I forgot to ask. How much money do mechanics make? Can you make good money as an automotive technician?
Absolutely. It obviously is going to vary from area to area. My experience, 15 years ago, I was making six figure income as a shop foreman. I was a shop foreman in a Chrysler dealer for several years. All of my master techs, I had 5 master techs in there. Every single one of those guys was making six figures, 6 figure incomes, and varying between 1 and 200,000 a year is not at all uncommon for a good master tech in this business. Many people are surprised at that.
Yeah.
But now, what I will say about that, you're not going to come out of tech school making that kind of money, but it is a goal to work for. And with good work ethic, good aptitude, good training, and good work ethic, it'll come. Watching, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. I'm Brian. I'm a lifelong technician for over 40 years. Master Chrysler technician, master GM technician, lead technician, and shop foreman. If you enjoyed this look into the world of automotive technician, make sure to hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. We'll be covering more repairs, tools and technology, and real life experiences from the shop. Don't forget to meet me here on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern for my live stream where I answer your questions regarding everything automotive repair and industry. Looking forward to seeing you there. Drop me a comment below if you have any questions, videos, ideas, or topics you want to see next. Your support helps with this channel and keeps it running strong, just like a well maintained engine. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you back in the garage.